Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. It's going to be a continuation from the lesson that I went into yesterday, going back into, the way you've been taught. And, we find most of our people being spiritually lost. You look at this picture right here, it's a representation from them being in this confusion. And there's many things to be learned. So this is a learning process. As you go to be reborn, you have to throw everything that you've been taught in this world away. And you have to rebuild your mind with truth. So what leads to our people being spiritually lost because they don't want to start all the way over. They want to stick to some of the things that they've been taught. So going back into what I was going into yesterday, so the spirit been on us to wake up, come out this slumber, this state of mind that we was in. We was lost. We didn't know if we was coming or going. A lot of our people was referenced to themselves as being so-called black people, so-called Hispanic people, so-called Native American people. And most of our people still subscribe to those pseudo ethnicities. They still subscribe to this calendar, to this system, this way of life. I'm going to go into a little bit more information. It says a spiritual awakening is a profound shift in awareness. We very aware. It's like we got a sixth sense, so to speak, on the spiritual matters, right? Leading to a new understanding. So you can't wake up to the truth and still have the same understanding that you was taught in this system. You have to have a renewed mind. It says leading to a new understanding. So that means a different way of living, a different way of looking at life, a different way of processing things. It says leading to a new understanding of oneself and the world. So we know this world is in a wicked state. There's wicked people. The Edomites run this world. That's why everything is on this vibration of wickedness. And our people have assimilated to this culture because they don't know better. They've been indoctrinated and brainwashed and they sick. It says it is often described as waking up from a habitual state of being. It says accompanied by realization of a deeper purpose in connection to something beyond the mundane. It says this process can involve self-discovery, inner peace, and a renewed sense of purpose, leading to a transformation in one's world view and mindset. That's heavy because once you wake up to the truth, you start to understand what's really going on in this matrix. It changed the way you look at life. Things that you used to look at a certain way, you don't look at them things the same way. You have a different understanding. It's like I'm a little congested. So let me show you one of these things that you've been taught. Right? So going back into this calendar system, all these things that's been taught to you as truth, and you have no other reference point. You don't have no other reference point besides what you've been taught. What you've been taught is what you're gonna believe unless that stuff is challenged. It says, yes, many of the planets in our solar system are named after Roman and Greek gods and goddesses, specifically the planets of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, now a dwarf planet. It says are all named after mythological deities. Earth is the exception, which the name stemming from Old English words meaning ground. So the days of the week, the months, the solar system, everything that you've been taught is a lie. You've been taught an Edomite culture. That's what you don't know. So our people don't understand what words properly mean. So we don't understand what words properly mean. You can be under a spell and not know it. So a lot of you don't even know this, but you're learning. That's a good thing. So Edomites did this, right? They gave you their culture. This is how they live. The lifestyle that you live right now is not the way it was intended for us to live. It says right here at the top, it says this traditional tradition, Salakia, of naming celestial bodies after gods and goddesses dates back to ancient civilizations like the Babylonians. That's why you got something called the Babylonian Talmud. This Jewish people, which are Edomites, that's what they follow. They use the Torah or the Thara as a prop. But what they actually study and believe in is the Babylonian Talmud. You don't know these things though. You're learning, right? So this is important to notice. They don't speak the ancient Hebrew. I'm gonna do a lesson on that in a few days. It's a lot of research I've been doing so I can make it simple so you can understand. So the Hebrew that they made up is really Yiddish, and it's not ancient Hebrew characters. They use something called the Assyrian script, which goes to show you they're not the true people out of the Bible. They put the vowel system, was that Ben Yehudi, if I'm not mistaken, he put the vowel system into what you know as modern Hebrew, which is Yiddish. It says who assign names to the planets based on their own Pathonian of deities. It says the Greeks and Romans adopted this tradition, and the names they use are still in use today. So when you get educated in a system, it's really an indoctrination, but because they teach you all this stuff in grade school. And if you have no other reference, you're gonna think this is the truth. Let's keep going. So I was going into this yesterday. This is how you get the word month. It's based on the moon. You can do your own research. So how you get the word month, it stems to the word moon because the moon is what we kept time on. That's how we kept the Sabbath. So once the new moon comes in, right, you count 7 days and then that would be your Sabbath. So pretty much, say if the new moon came in on Sunday, now if you're looking at this calendar right here, Sunday sundown to Monday sundown. And this is a very important thing I want to explain to you too. These Edomites gave you a system of when 12 o'clock comes, that's a new day. We didn't keep time that way. We did sundown to sundown. That's our culture from the Bible. So Sunday sundown to Monday sundown would be, they said that's the new moon, right? So you would count 7 days, and on that next Sunday sundown to Monday sundown, that'll be the first Sabbath. And then, do the same thing. You got the second Sabbath. And then do the same thing. You got the third Sabbath until the new moon comes in. It's just that simple. So it's not a full moon is not the Sabbath because you got these guys from IUIC who teaches that. So we didn't go by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We didn't that's a new creation. All these things was put in this Edomite calendar that you know today is a Gregorian calendar. We kept time based on numerology. So month 1, day 14. Month 2, day 7. Just giving you examples. We didn't go by January, February, March. And if you understand that, it would clear up a lot of confusion. But you people think this calendar that you know today was in use back then. You have to study to know these things. Let's go here. But again, that's why the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua raised up teachers to teach our people. So that's why when you go into this place, Babylon, you got a million different doctrines. And you Israelites, you so-called blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans are getting worse by the day. You getting worse. You waxing worse with these false doctrines. And you can tell it's a separation going on because you're seeing the oil and water, right, separate, which oil and water don't mix. But if you ever, pour it inside of each other, it's going to split. So you're seeing that split. And we see who the bug eyes is. We see who the confused of our people is into all these strange doctrines. One truth and many lies. Remember that. Somebody got to have the truth. And we're supposed to be studious to understand who does have the truth. We got the truth. Everybody else got lies. It says in the context of the Tower of Babel, story in Genesis, Babylon means confusion. That's all America is, a big ball of confusion. We'll be glad when this part of this experience that we call life is over, because we tired of being around you confused people and bringing your vomiting your manners around us. Okay, so let's go here. So this calendar, the days of the week as you know it, ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. This is all Edomites that you're under the influence of. It says the Roman calendar was a calendar used by the Roman kingdom and Roman Republic. Although the term is primarily used for the Rome's pre-Julian calendars, it is often used inclusively of the Julian calendar established by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. It's very important to know this information. It says, according to most Roman accounts, their original calendar was established by the legendary first king Romulus. It consisted of 10 months. So did you know that? So all you know is a 12-month. You think things was always this way. You have to go back in history to know how things change. And they'll give you a better understanding of what's going on back then and what's going on today, so you can understand what the Bible properly is talking about. It says it's Salakia. It consisted of 10 months beginning in spring, which that's really when a month comes in. I mean, a year. The year comes in so-called March, around so-called March, so-called April. There'll be our month one, right, for our, annual year. It says leaving winter as an unassigned span of days before the next year. Let's go here. But you get the point of it. You know what I'm saying? You have to study the Julian calendar, and then from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, that was in the 1500s that they started this new calendar, this new way of all this paganism, and that's what you follow today. And a lot of our people, 95% of them don't know this information. They just think that it's always been called Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's all they know. They have no other instruction, no other teaching besides what they've been taught in Babylon, which we know this place brings confusion because you go into the name Babylon, aka America, is confusion. Tell me I'm lying. Let's go here. And some of this stuff I went to yesterday, but I was just trying to close this lesson out so we can move on to something else. But this is why you have to be spiritually awakened, so you can get the full truth, the full history. And like the elders say from GMS, if you don't know the history, you cannot know the mysteries. And that's the problem. A lot of you Jakes, you don't want to go and do the hard work. You want to do the TikTok shit. Right? You want everything to be easy. That's why you get into all these different doctrines, all these different books to confuse yourself. And these books that you're into contradict themselves. Then you try to mesh them in with the Bible. None of these books don't go along with the Bible. The book of Enoch is bugged out. The book of Jasher is bugged out. The Apocalypse of Paul is bugged out. So on and so forth. Many of these books, is a whole list of them. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going. Right here. Study to show yourself approved unto Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai means diligently work and study to be recognized as a true faithful servant of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. A workman who is not ashamed and correctly, this is very important right here, correctly handles the word of truth. So it has to be done correctly and directly. No bullshit. And so you can understand. No adding your own spin to it. Not winging it. Strictly, correctly, and directly. So you won't bring no confusion among our people because they coming out a great state of confusion. You don't want to put them back into confusion. Hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. Bahashim, Rachak, Quadash, Shalom.